remember I had spent so much time running from the possibility of having to talk about this that God had to just let me know flat out that me being afraid of my past is exactly what the enemy wants. If I'm afraid of it or if I'm ashamed of it, then I won't talk about it. And if I don't talk about it, then the people will never know that God delivered me from it. And if they don't know that God delivered me from it, they'll never know that with God, it is possible to get freedom from this bondage. Okay? See, that's what the enemy preys on. He P-R-E-Y, preys on your silence.
But the Holy Spirit produces this kind of fruit in our lives: love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. There is no law against these things. Those who belong to Christ Jesus have nailed the passions and desires of their sinful nature to his cross and crucified them there.
Baptize in the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Ghost.
I remember when God first began downloading this message into my spirit, I told Pastor Rashonda that this message would be for those of us who, because of our past, believe that God would never unleash us for purpose. So for those of you who have been saved, sanctified, and filled with the Holy Ghost your whole life, this message may not be for you. But for those of us who God had to snatch us up out of the trenches, yeah, see, this message is for that little girl from Inglewood who God had to step in and say, no, 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 baby, you belong to me. See, this is personal.
Sit back, relax, and don't forget your snacks, because we just talking friends. Hey!
Friends, cousins, and neighbors. Hey, y'all, and welcome to episode 2 of We Just Talking Friend. Hey, I'm so excited that you decided to come back. But if this is your first time here, hey, welcome, welcome, welcome. My name is Dianne, and I'm super excited that you found your way here. Now, for those of you who watched the beginning of this video and you've never seen me like that, you're probably clutching your pearls right now, okay? Probably clutching your pearls real tight, and that's okay. But I need you to release them, okay? Let them go. Because I told you all that this episode was going to be real, it was going to be raw, and it was going to be heavy. Okay, we're going to get into some things today, okay? And the reality is I had to include those clips because that's part of my testimony. That was me. Very much so, that was me. And if I'm being honest with you all, that was one of the main reasons why I was afraid to do this. When God told me that this was something that I was supposed to do, I remember I ran. And I ran because of that. And I remember I told God, I was like, look, maybe I can just wait a couple years. Maybe in a couple years, you know, the clips will be gone. People will forget about it. And that'll give me enough time to show them like who I am now, right? I can show them that, you know, you done worked on me and, you know, I'm a new woman. I'm changed. And they can just see this version of me now. And we ain't even got to talk about that. And I remember God said to me very clearly, stop running from the receipts. And I was like, the receipts of my foolishness? And he was like, no, those receipts are evidence of my work in you. The work that I've done in you. And I was like, dang. He was like, he be talking to me so cold because I'm such a, like, but wait a minute, let's negotiate. He like, no, ain't no negotiations. Listen, how can you sit here and try to tell these people about what I've delivered you from, but you're too afraid to actually show them what I've delivered you from? Like, what we doing? And so I was like, points were made. you ate that little thing, that one little thing, you ate that. I had to get to a point where I was no longer ashamed and embarrassed about the things that I've done because that's not who I am anymore. You know what I'm saying? But I can't run from it because that's part of my testimony. That's part of my story. So we definitely have to talk about it. So today, we're going to talk about some things. We're going to get into it. I remember I had spent so much time running from the possibility of having to talk about this that God had to just let me know flat out that me being afraid of my past is exactly what the enemy wants. If I'm afraid of it or if I'm ashamed of it, then I won't talk about it. And if I don't talk about it, then the people will never know that God delivered me from it. And if they don't know that God delivered me from it, they'll never know that with God, it is possible to get freedom from this bondage. Okay? See, that's what the enemy preys on. He P-R-E-Y, preys on your silence. Because if you ever decide to tell your testimony, that's a win for God, okay? And that's an L for little Ashy. And the last thing he wants is to take another L, but that's what's going to happen today because I'm going to tell it all, okay? So Ashy, Musty, Dusty, Crusty, it's another L for you today because I'm going to tell my testimony. Because at the end of the day, can't nobody tell my testimony like I can. And the truth of the matter is there will be people who will try to come and tell your testimony. They'll try to come and remind you about who you were and what you used to do and all of the things. But the reality is, your deliverance is so personal and it's so intimate between you and God. Wasn't nobody else there, so they can't really tell it the way you can tell it because they don't know. So who gonna tell it better than I can, okay? So I am here today to tell you all my testimony. So let me start this thing off by explaining why I chose the title that I chose. The title of this episode is From Menace to Missionary. Now, I chose that title because I was reading the Tony Evans commentary, and that's how he explained the Apostle Paul. That's how he referred to him, as a menace turned missionary. And if you know me, you know. Jesus is obviously number one, but my immediate number two is the Apostle Paul. That's my dog, okay? Because our stories are very parallel. You're going to find that out today. Our stories are very, very parallel. Now, I went out here persecuting the Christians, but I was a menace out here in these streets, okay? But yeah, that's my dog. And so when I read that, I was like, yeah, because I really was a menace out here. And now I'm just a missionary out here trying to tell whoever I can, however I can, about the goodness of the Lord and just spread this gospel to whoever is willing to listen. And so I thought that was the perfect title for this episode. So yeah, that's why I chose Menace to Missionary. So let's get into it. Let's buckle up and roll. Okay, so as I begin to tell you all a little bit more about me, I want you to keep two things in mind. The first thing, my calling is to preach, teach, and spread the gospel of Jesus Christ. That's my calling, right? So that means that my gift is in my mouth, okay? And so as I'm telling you all about me growing up and all of the things, I want you to keep in mind and take note of how many times and the different ways that the enemy was on assignment to try to silence my gift. The enemy was working double. I'm a child. And he's working overtime to silence my gift. So I want you to keep that in mind, okay? And then the second thing is, I'm going to say some things today, but I want you all to remember that my mother is not a villain. She's not a villain. And I have to say that because I was the guinea pig. Okay, I'm the firstborn child. I'm the guinea pig. She had me when she was 22. She's trying to figure things out, right? I've spent the majority of my life believing she was a villain, okay? And then recently, she made two statements to me that kind of shifted my thought process, right? So the first thing she said to me was, she could never give me what she never got, okay? So I had to hold on to that. And then the second thing she said to me, my mom has had this ongoing beef with my uncle for years, right? That's years. And so I guess when she found out she was pregnant with me, he told her that I wasn't going to grow up to be anything. He told her that I was going to be a bum and I wasn't going to amount to anything. And so her reasoning for everything that she did while I was growing up, everything that went down was because I had to be the one thing that she got right. So, when she first said all that to me, I was like, you know what I'm saying? But for the protection of the purity of my heart now, I've decided to just move in grace, moving forward. You know what I mean? I don't have a choice. I literally, I have begged God to purify my heart. I have begged God to take away unforgiveness and resentment and bitterness and hatred and all of the things, to take that and create in me a clean heart and renew a right spirit within me. I have begged and said that over and over and over again. And so I cannot get sucked into the idea that I don't necessarily believe that, or yeah, but was it really worth you breaking me in order to prove him wrong? Like I can't do that. So knowing that, I've decided that I have to give it to God, I have to forgive, and then I have to move in grace. But you have to do this daily. That's the part of forgiveness that I think people don't really talk about, especially when it's someone who's really close to you like that, and also somebody who may not necessarily do the things that they used to do to you, but they currently do things that trigger, right? Trigger the things from the past. Like that person you have to forgive every single day. Every day I have to make a decision that I'm going to forgive that person. And so that's just what I've decided to do. And let me just say this. I love my mama. Okay? I love my mama. With everything, I love my mom. My mom will go to war for me. You understand me? My mom will take down anybody behind me except herself. She will check any and everybody that tried me except her. It's like, can't nobody be a bully to me but her. That's it. So it is what it is. But I love my mom, and this is not about her, but she's part of my story. She's part of my testimony, so I have to talk about it, you know? But not too much on my mama, okay? So, with that being said, let's talk about little Dianne. So, obviously, I grew up in a very toxic household. My mom raised me with the foundation of what happens in this house stays in this house. Yeah, 0 stars, do not recommend. What happens in this house stays in this house. I didn't understand it as a child. I just knew I wasn't allowed to talk about what went down in our house. But as an adult, I definitely realized it's because some things you didn't want me to talk about. So, yeah, it's not, no. There's nothing that goes on in my house that I'm concerned or worried about Cadence sharing or talking about. So, you know, something was up. And so that's why that rule was implemented for sure. I didn't have a voice growing up. I wasn't allowed to talk to my mother about how I felt about her. Anything that was going on with me in the world, I was able to talk to my mom about. She was an ear, she was a shoulder, she was whatever I needed. You know, advice, great. She did all the things, except when it came to her. When it came to my feelings about something she may have said or something she may have done, I was never allowed to talk about it. If I did feel a way about something, I was to keep it to myself, because there was no feelings. There was no, tell me how you feel about that. Tell me how, there was none of that. If you feel something, you better not show it. I bet not know that you feel away. You know what I'm saying? It was very much that. Y'all know that scene in Matilda when the dad is talking to her and he's like, I'm big, you're small. I'm right, you're wrong. And there's nothing you can do about it. It was very much that. It was very, 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 very much that. Growing up, I experienced a lot of physical, mental, and verbal abuse. And again, her reasons are her reasons. You know, I was the guinea pig, whatever that means. And so she was 22, she was trying to figure it out. I think it's also important for me to note that for 12 or 13 years, I was the only child. Okay, so I had to carry the weight of being the only child for that amount of time. And then she had my brother, the middle child. Okay, she had him, and then I became the oldest. So now I have to carry the weight of the oldest daughter. Okay, and so then she had my baby brother, and so now I'm the oldest daughter to 2 sons. Okay, I'm the oldest daughter, and she got 2 sons. So I had to carry the weight of not only being the oldest daughter, but I was also the oldest only daughter. If you know, you know. There's a certain weight that the oldest only daughter has to carry. And then there was this third thing, and I don't really like to talk about it, but I mean, we're being honest with each other, so I might as well go ahead and put that out there too. I was the oldest daughter, I was the oldest only daughter, and I was the only dark-skinned child. And so I grew up a lot hearing, oh, you know, my sons, they light skin, their hair texture is this, and you know, they just so fine and so handsome. It was almost like she was idolizing their skin color and their features. She would idolize it. And I remember I used to just be sitting in the corner like, I'm cute. I'm cute. I think I look all right, you know? So, you know, that created an insecurity in me, you know. But yeah, so it was just a lot of different things that went in that, but I was never allowed to express that. I couldn't talk. I had no voice. And so I don't think my mom realized it at the time, but her not allowing me to talk at home made me want to talk everywhere else. Okay? And so the fruit of that was that I like to argue. I love to argue because I was never allowed to say anything to my mother. So if I was affected by something, if I was bothered by something that had to do with her, I was never allowed to voice that. And so when I would, my voice was silenced. I was shut up. It was more than that, but it was shut up. Okay? Whatever I said is what I said. If you don't like it, go to your room. Like it was never, like if I tried, it was no. It was either I was going to be met with an abrupt, absolutely not, go to your room, or I was going to be hit. One to two, you know? And so you don't talk. You learn to just take it. Whatever she say, okay, that's my mama. She said it. It is what it is, you know? And you develop this it is what it is attitude. And that's not healthy either, but I had that too. That was another fruit that grew from that. But I love to argue because on the outside of her, when I'm talking to anybody else, I'm never going to give anybody else the opportunity to silence me. So I don't care what I have to say to you. I don't care how I have to say it to you. I didn't care. I'm going to talk. You aren't going to talk at me. That was another thing that my mom did. She didn't talk to me when she was angry. She talked at me a lot. And so when I would have arguments with people outside of my house, and it would go from us having a back and forth exchange of us talking to each other, even if it's heightened, even if we yell and talking to each other. The minute I notice you start to talk at me, it's a switch. And it ain't even got nothing to do with you. That's the bad part. It had nothing to do with that person. I'm just triggered because that's what I get at home. So you definitely are not about to talk at me. So it went from me loving to argue to me loving to fight. Because remember, I dealt with verbal, physical, and mental abuse. So she doing all of this at home, I can't say nothing back. That's my mama, right? I can't. And the truth of the matter is, I grew up being terrified of my mother. She's old school, and so she likes to say that it's not fear, it's respect. But no, I was afraid of my mother. I remember one time we were sitting in the car, and I think she had reached over me. I think she was trying to either do something with the window or the lock or something. She reached over me, and I did one of these. And she was like, what's that about? And I was like, I don't know, I thought you were about to hit me. She was like, are you afraid of me? I said, yeah. And she was like, you don't ever have to be afraid of me. She said, you are supposed to respect me, but you are never supposed to fear me. And I was like, I can't say nothing. So in my mind, I'm thinking like, but that's not, you're doing the complete opposite of that. Like you are doing everything in your power to make me afraid of you. This isn't respect. I'm terrified of you, right? So I didn't have a voice. I was afraid to talk, all the things, whatever. So that the fact that I could not hit her, obviously, that's my mom. I'm not going to hit my mom. But I have all of this anger and all of this rage building up in me. And so it got to a point where not only did I like to argue, I loved to fight. Fighting for me had become a sport. I loved it. Any opportunity, I loved to fight. Is that healthy? Absolutely not. But I had to get this out. I couldn't get it out at home, so it had to come out. So I had so much anger, so much rage, so much like, rawr, whatever that is, built up on the inside of me, and I had to let it out. And so I used to fight. I didn't care. That's how Day Day was birthed, right? So we got little Dianne. All the things are happening, and that produced Day Day. And so now Day Day is just a menace. Day Day is out of control. When some of you who may have saw me on some of these shows, I often refer back to Day Day from Inglewood. She was a problem. She was the menace, okay? She was the menace. Day Day was a problem. Like I told y'all at the beginning of this video, the enemy had been on assignment since I was a child to shut me up. So I know I can't talk at home. That's not a safe space for me to voice myself. I can't say anything, right? So I'm silenced at home. So growing up, I'm in school and all my report cards, Dianne, great student, straight A student. I got great grades. Like I was always honor roll, principal, dean, all the things. Grades was always A1, but I talk too much. I'm always talking. I was never afraid to talk to people. And see, what I didn't know at the time, and obviously my mom and my teachers and everybody, obviously they didn't know, but God was developing in me a fearlessness to talk. I talk to anybody. I'm not afraid to talk to anybody. Do you understand me? But all of that was being developed as I was a child. I'd be at school and I was the person that people would come to and be like, hey, Dianne, can you go tell such and such? Oh, cool, no problem, because I'm not afraid to talk, which is why I'm not scared to talk to anybody, but that's something that had to be developed within me, right? So I remember one time, I was in 4th grade. Shout out to you. You know who you are, teacher. You know who you are. She's still my favorite teacher to this day. But I was in her class, and this was early, right? I was in her class, and I was talking, running my mouth. And so she calls my mom. She tells my mom, she's like, I don't know what's going on with Dianne, but she real chatty. She talking a lot, almost to a point where it's getting a little disruptive in class. She doing too much talking. She don't know my mom. And so when she come back into class, she tell me she called my mom. I'm instantly, y'all, my stomach is in my toenails. Like, I'm instantly like, oh, come on. Like, you ain't have to do that, right? So I already know when I get home, it's about to be a problem. So I get home, and I got a whooping. Got a crazy whooping. So I come to school the next day, and I can't sit in my chair. So I remember I was struggling to sit down. I was trying to find a way for me to sit down, but I can't because I was too sore. Like I was toe up, right? So I couldn't sit down. So I remember I was mad at the teacher because I was like, this is all your fault. It's my fault because I was talking, but this is your fault, right? And so I remember I looked at her because I had an attitude, and I looked at her and I saw her. We made eye contact. I saw her watching me trying to sit in this seat. And we didn't say anything to each other, but she saw what that was. You know what I mean? And from that day forward, wasn't no more calling home. She didn't call home anymore. Anytime I was doing too much talking, or anytime I was, whatever the case may be, she took me under her wing. And when I would get out of pocket, hey, let me holler at you. And she would discipline me. She would correct me. Like, she made sure, I don't know if she made a vow to herself or what it was, but she never called home on me ever again, right? And so shout out to you. You know who you are, and I know you watching this video. So shout out to you. But yeah, and so even at school, I was, you know what I'm saying? And granted, it was my fault because I was doing too much talking, but there's a reason for everything, okay? And so at school, it was like, you can't talk here, you can't do this, you can't do that. And so it got to a point of, I still maintain my grades. Dianne is a great student. Dianne, she's this, she's that, da-da-da-da. She talked too much. But now we also have this layer of, she's fighting. Why is she doing all this fighting? What's going on? Why is she doing all this fighting? Right? And so now that's building in me. I didn't have a safe space. I never felt like I have a safe space except at this beautiful, amazing woman right here. Her house was my safe space. She was my safe space. This is Gertrude, aka Cookie, aka the cookbook, better known as my granny. My granny is the only person that I felt heard me. She was the only place that I feel like I had a voice. My granny was the only place that I felt safe, that I felt not only heard, but I also felt seen. And granted, my grandmother, she never checked my mom about, the things that I would come back and tell her, but she overly loved me. Like, the more things that I would come and tell her, the more she overly loved me. And she was just really safe for me. My grandmother is no longer here. She passed away in 2014. If you know me from the shows, I talk about her a lot. That was my Big Brother partner. That was my soap opera partner. That was my Real Housewife partner. My granny was my girl. Oh my God, I miss her so much. That was the only place that I really felt safe was with her. And my granny took all my secrets to the grave with her. She took all my secrets. I never had to worry about you. And it got to a point, like I said, because I didn't have a voice at home. Whenever I would get to my grandmother's house, I had word vomit. I had to pour and tell her everything. And she wouldn't, it wouldn't be like, oh, girl, ain't nobody I'm not trying to hear that. Or it wouldn't be like, I'm watching TV right now. Or I'm trying to cook. Or it was never that. It was very much so, if you need to talk to me for 6 hours, I'm going to sit here for 6 hours while you talk to me. She was just, my granny was just so dope, man. Oh, my granny was so dope. But yeah, that was the only place that I felt seen and I felt heard was with my grandmother. So, I'm growing up. My brothers are now here. I'm carrying the weight of all of the things. They're here, and somehow they become my children. I have to take care of them. I have to do all the things. The normal big sister stuff. That's not a big deal. Like, I mean, I think I was like big sister mother, and they'll tell you that. My brothers will tell you I was like big sister mother. Okay, but they're my dogs. They're my little babies for sure. They're my little babies. So the Bible says gifts come without repentance. So whatever your gift is your gift, right? God gave it to you before you were even born. Your gift is your gift. That's it. That's all. Now, what you choose to do with that is on you. That's free will. What you choose to do with your gift is on you. You can either use it for the kingdom or you can use it in the world. And because I had not yet, I'm growing up, I'm a child, I had not yet made the decision to use my gift for the kingdom. So now I'm using it in the world. I'm cussing everybody out. Anybody. I wasn't afraid to step to nobody. There's a certain boldness that you get as well. When you deal with certain things, you get a certain boldness to yourself where you're not afraid of anybody. You know what I deal with at home? Ain't too much you can do. That was my mentality. If you knew what I dealt with at home, ain't too much you can do or say to me. So I was never afraid to step to anybody. Man, woman, cat, dog, fish, frog, didn't matter. I wasn't afraid to step to nobody. And that's also part of my gift. You have to have a certain level of boldness. So all of this stuff is for a reason. That's another reason why I can't be angry and I can't have resentment and I can't have hatred and I can't have anger. All of this stuff that I went through helped to develop my gift. I needed that boldness and that confidence and that fearlessness to be able to speak because God has called me to speak to people who may not even be receptive. And I need to have the boldness to still stand firm in my faith and still talk whether you want to hear it or not. I'm still going to tell you what thus saith the Lord. We still gonna talk about this thing. And so I didn't realize it at that time, obviously, because I'm living it. So I didn't understand that all of this stuff was for a reason. It was all for a reason. And I know one may think like, you know, God is watching all of this and he didn't ever think like, you know, let me help her out. But if he did step in, and let's say he did decide to change the cards that he had dealt me, let's say he did that, would I be right here right now? Would I be right here right now? I would probably be somewhere else doing something else, but it wouldn't be this. I wouldn't be sitting here trying to help somebody else, trying to talk to somebody else about the Lord, tell what's in this book so I can point you to Jesus. I wouldn't be here. And so I can't sit back and be like, dang, I wish this never happened or that never happened. No, I have to find God in it. You got to be able to find God in every situation. And so that's what I've decided to do. I've decided to, as I go through my life and the things that I've been through, I have to look for God in those things, right? Because God already knew. He knows the beginning, middle, and end. And before the beginning, he knows all the things, right? And so everything that I went through and everything that I was going through, did he intend for me to go through that? But I know that he's going to make it work for his good. I know that he's going to make it work in a way that I can give him glory and that somebody can hear my testimony and see how he worked through that. Because I'm here. Ain't nobody. I'm alive. I'm alive. I'm happy. You know, it may not have been the best childhood, but we good now. You know, I am proof that there's freedom on the other side of forgiveness. Because me and my mom cool now. We cool. Boundaries had to be set. We went, almost a year without speaking to each other. But all of that had to happen in order for us to have the relationship that we have now. You know what I'm saying? We cool now. That's my partner. But we're not going to act like that's not part of my story. We're not going to act like these things didn't happen. You know what I'm saying? And so if I'm going to tell it, I got to tell it all. So now I'm getting older, right? And day is in full effect. Fussing, cussing, fighting, all the things. I would like to say that I inherited my cussing from my mother and my grandmother because they were both cussers. You understand me? Heavy cussers, okay? And I would like to believe that I inherited that from them. because I too was a cusser. Okay, but the Lord has delivered. Amen. Thank you, Jesus. But yeah, so I'm in the thick of it. Okay, it's so funny because I ran into one of my, well, we're not friends anymore, but we used to be back in the day. Like we was cool. And when I say back in the day, I mean back in the day. Keep in mind, y'all, I was born in 1988. I am 37 years old. Okay, so I'm grown. Okay, so yeah, no, we used to be friends back then. Like we were thick, we was tight back then. We used to be really good friends. And she sees who I am today, like the woman that I am today, by the grace of God, the woman that I am today, right? And so she's like, that's so crazy to see you now and knowing who you were. She was like, girl, you used to be the call. And then she started laughing, but it wasn't funny to me anymore. Because when she said I used to be the call, that, you know, have you ever heard somebody say, man, I'll make one phone call and I'll shut this whole thing down, or I'll make one phone call and I'll air all this out? Well, I was the call. I was the person who got called to come shut the thing down. I was the person who got called to come air this whole thing out. That was me, right? And so for her to make that comment, it didn't make me laugh. And she caught on to that because it wasn't funny to me anymore. It was like, yeah, you really was out here being a dummy for other people. Because why you weren't handling your business yourself? Why you had to call me? And dummy, why was you showing up? Like, showing up, taking risks that could have cost me my freedom or my life. Risks for people who, as you can see, I don't even really talk to no more. Risks. But it was because I enjoyed it. And why did I enjoy it? Because I had all of this stuff built up. That's why I'm so mindful with the way that I raise Cadence. Like, I don't ever want to do anything. And I'm not perfect. Right? I'm not perfect, so I'm going to make mistakes. She's my first child, so I too am going to make mistakes. But I've learned from the things that I went through of what not to do. And I never want to plant bad seeds that are going to grow and produce negative things in my child. Ever, never, ever, never. Do I get it right all the time? No. Do I miss the mark? Absolutely. But I am very cautious to never try to plant seeds that are going to just ruin my child. I didn't know a better word to put there, but ruin my child. I can't. I'm so mindful, so mindful. And I remember that was one of the things that I struggled with my mother, because her whole thing was, she was the way that she was with me because that's all she knew. That's all she got, right? Apparently from my grandmother, that was all she got. But somehow she magically learned how to be this version of herself that's so soft and so gentle. And so when it comes to my brothers, and I don't even think she realized that that created something in me that made me, it made me doubt my worth. Because I was like, how are they worthy enough for you to change, but I'm not? You felt enough and loved them enough to make adjustments and make changes, but you didn't do that for me. And here's why I say that is because, you know, if she was growing and evolving and we could see that across the board, that would be one thing, right? But just like I used to be Day from Inglewood, she used to be whoever she was from wherever she was. I ain't gonna say too much. She used to be whoever she was from wherever she was, right? And so while they got a certain version of her, as we're growing and evolving, I still got that version of her. And it's like, well, dang, when do I get to, when you gonna introduce me to, when we get to meet? I would like to get to know her. When do, you know what I'm saying? And so I used to think that it was something about me. And I became so insecure about my worth, because it was like, if my old mama don't feel like I'm worth her making changes. But that's when my granny came in. I told my granny that, and I remember she was like, absolutely not. Absolutely. She just poured and poured and poured and poured and poured and poured and poured. But if I didn't have my granny at that time, thank God for grandmothers. My goodness. So, yeah, so that created another. So all of these seeds are being planted and they're producing this negative fruit. And so now I'm grown. So now I'm grown. But even with me being grown, I'm still carrying all of this fruit that has been grown over the years, right? So my mouth, reckless. Hands, out of control. Mindset, ridiculous. Insecurities, doubts, anger, bitterness, rage. I'm carrying all of these things. And it's like, dang, when do I get to be happy? So boom, here comes Cadence, right? And I will say that when Cadence was born, becoming a mother didn't really stop it. Didn't really stop those things, but it made me start considering. Like, I started weighing my options. You know what I'm saying? Whereas one of my friends put it, before Cadence, I would just pull up. I pull up, wouldn't ask no questions, handle business, go home. But now I have Cadence, you know, when somebody would call, I would show up. But now I got questions, okay? Why are we here? What did you do? What happened? I'm asking questions now. So the cannon ain't quite loose as it used to be, right? The screw's a little bit tighter, not much, but they're a little bit tighter, right? Because I got a human that I have to consider, okay? I have a whole human that I'm responsible for and I have to consider. So the change is happening, right? So then I get cast on reality TV. And you guys get to see me on the Jumbotron with all this fruit that I'm carrying. All these things that I'm carrying, y'all get to see me on the Jumbotron. And it's so crazy because when I be yelling and fussing and screaming and hollering at people, because I was doing all that. When I would be fussing and screaming and hollering at folks and I would start crying, some of y'all thought that I was crying because, oh, my feelings were hurt, or I was sad, or whatever the case may be. And I was crying because I was mentally weighing options. I was weighing options. I was like, I got the baby. You got the baby. But this person is trying to steal your voice. And obviously the winner was always my baby. Like, I'm always going to choose Cadence over anything. You know what I'm saying? That's why ain't nobody ever get slapped. Sorry, guy. Sorry. But yeah. It was always Cadence over anything. So now this has become my thing. I've done this on reality TV. Y'all have seen me drag people from here to Europe, like just going in, dragging. So now that's become my staple. I'm known for my one-liners. I'm known for dragging people. I'm known for day slave, blah, blah, all the crap, right? I'm known for all the things. Y'all clapping and applauding foolishness. Foolishness. Ain't nobody sat me in the corner and said, what are you doing? Everybody is just like, no, girl, yes, drag them, take them down, get them. And it's like foolishness, right? So I was known, notice I said I was known for dragging people and just being quick-witted, being, you know, I could read. You know what I'm saying? Read. I could read, right? And so at this point, not only was I known for doing all of these things on the TV shows that I was on, I was also known for doing these things on social media, right? Twitter was my space. Twitter was my space. If you know, you know. Twitter was my Egypt. If we being honest, Twitter was my Egypt, okay? And so I would get on there and I would do the reading, the dragging, the slaying, all the foolishness. I was doing the foolishness, but I had gotten known for that. It become my staple, right? People knew I could do it, and they knew that I could do it well. So one day, I don't want to give too much context, because if I give a lot of context, then I just feel like this person is going to try to make this about them, and it's not about you. It's not about you. I hope you're doing well. It's not about you. This is literally about my testimony, and it just so happens you're part of the story, okay? This person had been poking at me for the longest, and I had been actively ignoring this person because I was like, I already know you just doing this because you want my attention, so I'm going to ignore you, right? Then they had said something, and that daggone Day-Day, she couldn't take it no more. She couldn't take it no more, so she said, cool, I'm about to swing back. So I swung, right? And I kept swinging. Now, I'm laughing as I'm going back with this person. And I want you to keep in mind that as I'm going back and forth with this person, this ain't even my best material. Like, I'm staying on the surface because I'm still trying to stall this person out. I'm still trying to stall you out. I know what you did. You know what you did. But I'm still trying to stall you out, right? We going back and forth. We having this exchange. And like I said, it's on the surface. It ain't even my best material. We on the surface, right? I said something to that person. I hit send, and that was the end. Right? I get off social media. I think it was maybe a couple of days later. Yeah, maybe 2-3 days later. I had thought about something that was better than what I sent. I used to be very petty, very childish, very immature. Okay? I had thought about something that was better than what I sent. And so my plan was to go through my feed, find that tweet, and I was going to quote tweet it with what I wanted to say now. I didn't care. I know. Childish. I didn't care. I wanted to quote tweet it with what I wanted to say. Now, usually when I'm going back and forth with somebody on social media and I go through my feed, I'm cracking myself up. I believe that I'm one of the funniest people that I know. And so I crack myself up when I go back and read the things that I say. But it was something about this time. This time when I went through and I was looking for the tweet, I was disgusted. It was like the Lord was like, this you? This what you doing? It was almost as if, I had done the fuss and I had done the cuss and I had did all the things or whatever like that. But it was almost as if he was like, you starting to take a joke too far. Like you doing too much. So let me show you, because you already know what time it is. So let me go ahead and show you, because you know better. You know better. So let me go ahead and show you, so you know that you're doing too much. And my perspective was I was so disgusted with myself. I was so embarrassed. And again, this wasn't even some of my best work. This was on the surface. I wasn't even really giving it to this person like that. This was on the surface. And the Lord was like, what are you doing? Let me show you what you're doing. And then you tell me what we got going on. Because you already know what's up. So when I say you already know what's up, back in 2012, God told me what my purpose was. He told me that I was supposed to preach. And I laughed. Because I knew what I had been doing. This is before TV. Okay? I knew what I was doing. And I said, yeah, right. And I put on my best tennis shoes and I took off running. Oh, I ran from the call. I ran from the call. Because I knew that Day was a menace. I knew I was a menace. And I knew everything that I was carrying. Ain't no way you telling me that I'm about to who? I don't even like people. That's another thing. I don't even like people. You mean to tell me you want me to go out and tell people I don't even like about you? Ain't no way. Ain't no way. And so obviously, I want to put a pin right there, because obviously now, as I was, going through my conversion and God was transforming me and renewing me, and I was going through the purging and the pruning and the refining and all of those things, I asked God to give me a heart for his people, because I did not have it. I did not like people. But I asked God to give me a heart for his people. So when he was, talking to me, fast forward, as I'm looking through these tweets, and he like, you know better. It was very much so, you know what I've called you to do. And this is, what are you doing? So that lets me know the time had come. You can only run but for so long, Jonah. The time has come. Okay? And so, I was just so disgusted with myself. So I remember I took a break. I took a break from social media. That's one of the reasons, but that's one of the reasons Paul is big dog, because Paul got stopped in his tracks on his way into the city of Damascus to do some foolishness. God stopped him right in his tracks. God stopped me right in my tracks of about to do some foolishness. Okay? Because this response that I was about to give, this wasn't on the surface. I decided to go ahead and dive. I said, we going there. You know what I'm saying? Because you playing with me. And at that time, when I was tweeting, I felt vindicated for everything I was about to say. But fast forward, when I'm looking through it with a different set of eyes, I'm like, I felt terrible. I felt so bad. And so I had took some time from social media. I didn't realize God was putting me in isolation. I took a little time from social media. And then that's when things started to happen. That's when God was like, now I got your attention. We about to do some work. And boy, did he do some work. Did he do some work? So now that we've had a chance to talk about some of the seeds that were planted into the foundation of my growth and the fruit that was produced from those seeds, I want to talk about my foundation in church. And notice I said my foundation in church and not my foundation in God, because that's exactly what it was. I didn't have a foundation in God. I realize that now as an adult. I had a foundation in church. My mother had me in church Monday through Sunday. And I think this started when I was about, I want to say like 10 or 11, like 9, I'll say 9. Let's say 9. Well, it started about 9 years old, right? She had me in church all the time, and she had me in everything. I was in the choir, praise dance, anything. Anything. My mom had me in everything. Do you understand? I did everything at the church. But it was church. It was church. I remember telling my mom one day, I wish we could live at church because I loved church. I loved church. There was other children there. You know, like I said, until my brother, the middle child, until he was born, I was the only child. So being at home was like whack. Like being at home was whack. My only place of peace was at my granny's house. And so church was like other children. Yes. And so I loved church, right? And so now the reason I say that I didn't have a foundation in God is because that's not what I saw. Not from the church. I'm speaking from my mom. That's not what I saw. I would see one version of her Monday through Saturday, right? When we're not at church. When we're at home, I saw one version of her. We already talked about that at the top of the video. That's the version that I knew. You know what I'm saying? And even Sunday after church, that's the version I knew. But when we were at church, there was a different person that I saw. And so I would equate church to a better version of her. I would be so excited to go to church because whoever this is, yes, I want this person all the time, right? And so my perspective of church, and it wasn't God, it was church. So I didn't really get to know God for myself until I was like, I want to say like 19, maybe 19. It still wasn't a situation of, oh, I'm about to buckle down and this is us. No, because you got to remember, even though I was in church, Day was still alive and thriving. You know what I'm saying? So there was no change. There was no change because my foundation was not in God. God creates change, not church. God creates the shift. God creates the transformation, not the church. Okay? The church is there to point you to God. We are the church to point you to God. But the church is not God. So the church does not have the power to transform. It's God and God alone. Okay? And so because I didn't have the foundation of God, there was no transformation. There was no transformation. I was showing up every Sunday in robot mode. I know what I'm supposed to do here. I know what I'm supposed to do here. I know what I'm supposed to do. It was like routine. But it was routine that I enjoyed because I wasn't at home. Right? So, yes, I God shows himself to me. And I'm like, okay, cool. I can do the things. Boom. 2012 hit. And I'll never forget. He had already told me. I had this moment where I heard him very clearly tell me that I was supposed to preach, and I started laughing, and it was like, absolutely not. So then he sent this woman, and I ain't gonna say her name, he sent this woman to preach at the church that I was at one Sunday. And I don't be getting up. When they be like, come to the altar, we got a word. Nah. I don't know you like that. So I was sitting in my seat, and she pointed me out. She told me to come here. And I walked up there, because I'm going to be obedient, right? I'm going to be obedient. I walked up there, and she told me, she said, it's in your belly. She said, it's in your belly. It just needs to come out your mouth. And I said, what? She said, it just needs to come out your mouth. She said, you already know what he said, and it's in your mouth. And I said, I got so bad. I was so bad. Because at this point, I was like, why? Like, I just kept saying, why? Why? Right? So, ran. Pew. Didn't care. Ran. Bow. So, it was either 2018 or 2019. I think it was 2018. It was either 2018 or 2019. I was sitting on my bed. And I don't remember what I was watching, but I remember I heard him say it again. And this time it was different. This time it was like, I'm not asking you, I'm telling you. This is what you're supposed to be doing. And I remember I got so overwhelmed. I started crying. I was bawling. And when I say I was crying and I mean ugly snot-nose crying because I did not want to do it. I don't want to do this. I don't want that responsibility. I don't want that weight. I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that, right? So I'm crying. So I get on the phone and I call my pastor. He's the first person I called. I called my pastor. And I told him, and I was like, I don't want to do it. And I did everything but ask him, how can I make God change his mind? I don't want to do, I just say this, because I know that I'm laughing about it now, but the reality of the situation is nothing is funny. Because the truth of the matter is I was operating in disobedience, which is ultimately rebellion. And ain't nothing funny about being rebellious against God. Okay? Huge punishment. Okay? There's cost for that. There is a price for that, and it's very expensive. Okay? So ain't nothing cute, ain't nothing cool about rebellion, ain't nothing cool, ain't nothing cute about disobedience. If God tell you to do something, do it. Do it. Right? So that's 2018 or 19. I can't remember which one it was. And I had that moment I'm on the phone with my pastor, and I just remember I'm just crying, and he's on the phone because he too, when God told him back when, God told him that he was supposed to preach, he said he didn't want to do it either. So that made me feel a little better that I wasn't the only one, because I'm like, you see people and they're itching to get in the pulpit. They're like starving, ready to hand over their firstborn child to get into the pulpit. And then you have somebody like me who is like, nah, you feel bad about it. Like, I don't want to tell God no, but I need you to know this is not something that I want to do. You know what I'm saying? And this is something that I also feel like I'm not the one to do it. I don't know. Maybe you called me on accident. I don't know. So I put on my shoes again and I take off running. I'm full-fledged disobedience, right? And so 2022 is when this situation happened with the social media. This happened it was 22 or 23 is when this situation happened with the social media. And I was like, you didn't forget? Like, you didn't forget? Like, come on. How many times am I going to have to show you that I don't want to do this? But he don't care. I had to learn God does not care about what I want or do not want to do. He don't care. He doesn't care. He doesn't care. If he said it, it is. He does not care. There's work to be done in the kingdom. Ain't nobody worried about your little feelings, girl. Get over it, right? So this time I said, okay, I ain't gonna run no more. Obviously, you ain't going nowhere. You ain't gonna leave me alone. So, let me go and buckle down and do what it is that I'm supposed to be doing. I got baptized. I got in my word. I started reading. I started studying. I started praying. And this is when my relationship got real. This is when my relationship got real. Like I told God, I said, you got me. Like you got me. You got me. I don't know what I'm supposed to, you got me. Okay? I'm scared. I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing. I don't know this book like that. I don't tell people what. What am I supposed to tell them what? What am I supposed to tell them? Tell them what? I don't even know it. What, you know what I'm saying? And so that's when he had me start reading and studying. If you watch my sermon, I talk about how I went to God and with a thick list of reasons that I was not qualified for this. I was not the person for the job. And he made me read and study the people in the Bible who we would look at and we would be like, that person ain't really qualified, but he still chose them. Whether we thought they was qualified or not, he still chose them and he equipped them with everything they needed to complete the job. And so in that I learned, no, I don't know this Bible from front to back, back to front. But he's going to equip me to do what it is that he has called me to do. Because he gave me the gift. He put the calling on my life. He said this is my purpose. So he is going to work this thing out. You know what I'm saying? But I have to surrender to him so that he can do it. So then fast forward, we get the idea about this. And as I told y'all in the previous video, I ran again. I said, okay, Lord, me, talking and preaching and teaching to different people in my life, that's one thing. But this is totally different. And these people done seen me in rare form. What you mean? And so that's when I started getting afraid to come and talk because the evidence, I was terrified of the evidence. All of the things that y'all had seen me doing and saying on TV. Now, those of y'all who ain't never seen the shows, when I say doing and saying on TV, the majority of it is just me cussing and fussing, okay? I wasn't on TV doing nothing. Like, he never let me get on TV and do nothing too out of pocket, right? It was still out of pocket, but it wasn't nothing, it wasn't too deep, right? But who can measure it? It was just me fussing and cussing, okay? Fussing and cussing and cussing and cussing and fussing, okay? And that doesn't make it right. That doesn't make it better than it. What are you trying to say, Davon? Nothing, because ain't no levels. I was wrong. I was wrong. Whatever I was doing, I was wrong. So yeah, he tells me about this. I take off running. He comes back to me and tells me everything that I'm supposed to be doing with this whole channel situation and how I'm supposed to talk to you all and tell y'all what's in this book and point you to Jesus. And point you to Jesus, because that's what it's all about. Point you to Jesus. And I surrendered. And I said, okay, God, you got me. You got me. You got me. You got me. Wholeheartedly. You got me. And I never looked back. Have I been tested? Sure. Sure. Do I get on social media and try to tell people about the Lord? And they always want to come tell me something about me? Yes. Yes. But, here we are, still pushing. The Apostle Paul said in 1 Corinthians 15 that his grace, God's grace towards him was not in vain. And I stand on that. I want God to know that his grace towards me will not be in vain. All the work that he has put into me, all the detail that he has put into me, everything that he has decided to do in my life will not be in vain. I can't go back. So if you don't see me fussing, hollering, and cussing at folks no more, if you see me turning the other cheek, it's not because I'm soft. It's not because I'm a sucker. It's because he's worth more. He's worth so much more to me than to let my ego and my flesh win yelling and fussing and cussing at somebody. Don't touch me. But, it's not worth it. It's not worth it. So that brings us here. And that is my testimony. I feel like I've talked for a long time and I've let you all into some major details of my life, but hopefully that gave you a better understanding of just me and, my upbringing. I didn't go into too much detail just because I'm going to protect my mama. Because I love her. I'm a protector, you know what I'm saying? But again, she's part of my story. And so I can't act like certain things didn't happen that did. Because if I did, that's me cheating the testimony. That's me robbing the testimony. Why would I do that? So yeah, I'm part of her testimony, I'm sure. I'm part of her testimony. So, but yeah, man, I hope that this video has encouraged somebody to know that nobody is too far gone for God to come and get you and use you. You're not too far gone. And also, don't be in bondage about your past. Be free. Be free. Because I think we seem to forget that God is the only person who has the authority to determine where our souls spend eternity. He's the only person who can determine whether you're going to heaven or hell. Only he knows, right? We also have to remember that God is omnipresent and he's also omniscient, which means he's everywhere all the time. He sees everything and he knows everything. And so if he has already seen you in all of your foolishness and he already knows all of your foolishness and he has already forgiven you for your foolishness, why are you worried about what somebody else got to say? What they gonna do? They gonna talk? Ooh, whoop-de-doo. Whoop-de-doo. Who cares? Who cares? So hopefully this encourages somebody to get out of that bondage and not be afraid to do what God has called you to do. Even if you do feel like you're not qualified for what he called you to do, he's gonna qualify you. He's gonna qualify you. The only thing that needs to be on your resume for God is yes. That's the only thing he's looking for on your resume is yes. The minute you say yes, he'll do the rest of the work. I'm a witness. I didn't know nothing about this Bible. Nothing. Do you hear me? Nothing. And so what did he do? He made me study it. He made me study it. He gave me the tools so that I can understand it. He put me around some people, gave me godly community, put me around some people who can also help me understand it and can also help me with this walk. Some people who know what it feels like to go from this side to this side. You know what I'm saying? Some people, get you some people. And that is what this is about. This is the community that I'm trying to build. This is a community for those of us that are trying to get there. We're trying, Lord. Like, we are trying so hard to stay on the right path and not look back. And so we have to be surrounded by other people that if we try to stay forward. You know, accountability, encouragement, love. Like, I want that for us so much because that's what I needed. That's exactly what I needed. And that's what happened with the Apostle Paul. Like I said, after he went through his conversion, God didn't just send him out into the streets and was like, now you got to preach. No, he surrounded him with godly community first. He had to be around other Christians so he could learn. He had to learn. And I just want us to learn and grow together. That's it. That's it. So as long as this testimony has been, I pray that it has helped somebody. I pray that it has encouraged somebody. And most importantly, I pray that it has made somebody want to seek God. I pray that it has increased or ignited a fire in somebody to want to actively seek God because he's so worth it. He's so worth it. I look back at some of the things that I've done and some of the things that I've said and just the person that I used to be. And I'm just like, man, God, I thank you so much for putting your hands all over me and snatching me up out of my foolishness, not just for me, but also for my child. Like, I would never want to, I would not want Day-Day raising my daughter. Heck no. Heck no. I would not want Day-Day raising my daughter. So I'm just so grateful that, you know, she gets to see me. And I'm not going to hide who I was from her. Because when she gets older and she wants to know more about God, because she's in it already. She's in it already. But when she gets to that age where it's like, okay, you know what I'm saying? I want her to see. Like, yeah, mommy was a mess. But look at me now. So with all of that being said, if you liked this video, make sure you like this video, share, subscribe, tell a friend to tell a friend to tell another friend to tell another friend after that to come on over here because we would love to have them. I love y'all with the love of the Lord. I promise I do. And yeah, I will see you all next Wednesday right here on this couch.
Sit back, relax, and don't forget your snacks, cause we just talking friends. Hey!